This occurred a year ago. For background, it happened to at the time a 17-year-old female who was working at a local Wendy's in her city in Ohio. That night, she worked 5 to 10 and was running first window. A job is never too stressful and it has its fair share of bad times and good times. But this one takes the fucking cake. Night shift is always a circus. They do a lot of stupid things to pass the time by. But what more do you expect from teenagers? And a manager that's still a kid at heart. But the work still gets done nonetheless. On this particular night, she had this man come to the drive-thru, and he complimented her, which she's used to. She's a natural redhead in a small town. They're kind of scarce, so she sticks out a lot like a sore thumb. But she took the compliment anyways, and then gave him his change. Then he asked for her number. He's 17 and instantly declined because the old man was damn near old enough to be her grandfather. After he gets his food, he backs into a parking spot near her window and watches her while he eats his food. She told her female manager that was on shift at the time, and she assured her nothing would happen and she shouldn't worry. The man finishes his food and drives off, or so they thought. He goes to drive-thru again and gets a Frosty, and this time he is very persistent that she gives him her number this time. He declines yet again, so he puts his car in park and refuses to move. She proceeds to give him a messed up number. After some time passes, he parks his car on the other side of the building, comes inside to tell the person working up front that he thought she was very beautiful, and that he was the one that left his number. He lived close by the building. He would walk to and from work normally. The guy ended up staying from 8 until 10 and followed her home. He did contact her general manager the following day and gave him the number she received. The police are getting involved. Last night was a bad night. I'll describe a little bit about myself first. I'm a 23-year-old man and I work as a clerk at Game Shop. The night started out like any other night, with me getting out of work and going to get some fast food. I decided to go to a new place this time. An old McDonald's on the old side of town. That area is a bit run down and sketchy, but has a lot of character. Besides, I can handle myself. Or so I thought. It took me about 5 minutes to drive there, and it was a strange sight. The building was old and run down. There was only one car in this parking lot. It was a beat-up old creeper van. This particular section of town was dark and quiet. There was only one street light in the parking lot illuminating it with a faint orange glow, leaving the rest of the parking lot surrounded by blackness. There was some light coming from the building, but due to the advertisements and signs covering up the majority of the windows, it did not provide much light. It was quiet, lonely, and unsettling. But I was still hungry. I pulled into the cracked, derelict parking lot and tried to park as close to the McDonald's as I could. I stepped out the car and was greeted by an eerie silence. It was unnerving, but normal for this side of town. I walked slowly up the door and pushed it open. I was quickly greeted by the brightness of the lights inside and a good view of the restaurant. It was cleaner than I expected, but there were absolutely no customers and just a Latina woman working the counter. I looked out the window and noticed that the light from the van outside was now on, and there was an old man with a long beard sitting in the front seat, staring at me with a wicked, demented smile. I don't know who this man was, or what the hell he was smiling about, but I got very bad vibe from him. I decided to order a Whopper, but the cashier got angry. I realized my mistake and decided to get the McDLT, possibly the greatest sandwich McDonald's ever put out. As she was preparing my meal, I sat down at the table near the window and waited. I got my McDLT and ate it with joy. I just love having to put the burger together myself. It makes me feel special. After eating the burger, I looked out the window, and the van was gone. Strange. I had to piss, so I went to use the bathroom. The bathroom was run down and smelled horrible, and I kept hearing odd noises and rustling. Must be a rat, I thought to myself. I walked over to the urinal and began to unzip my pants, when I heard something that chilled me to the bone. It was a giggle, a demented giggle that seemed to echo throughout the bathroom. I was annoyed, but did my business quickly. When I was finished, I turned around and nearly jumped out of my skin. There was a man standing right behind me. It took me a second to register what I was looking at. This man wasn't an ordinary man. It was a clown. I was dumbfounded. It was Ronald McDonald. Well, it was a man dressed as the famous clown, at least. He was grinning maniacally at me. "Nice buns. Can I slip my man-meat up there?" he asked me, licking his lips. I tried to run around him, but he grabbed me by the back of the neck and slammed me into the bathroom stall. "Don't make a sound, sweet cheeks. I got the McDD Deluxe for you." My face was being pressed against the stall, but I could hear him unbutton and unzip his pants. "I'm McLoving it," he whispered into my ear. His breath smelled like french fries and rat shit. I tried to scream, but he pushed my face directly into the wall. I was terrified. My heart was pounding and my mind was racing. I felt like I was going to pass out. I felt gloved hands begin to pull down my pants and boxers. "Now don't worry about a thing, baby," he said maniacally. "Old Ronald McDonald will treat you just right." Suddenly the door opened and the worker screamed, "I'm calling the police." The clown threw me to the floor, and I looked up to see him staring at me. He had no eyes, just blackness. His mouth was overstretched in a sickening grimace. His teeth were sharp as razors. He turned to the woman, overstretched his hand and pointed at her, and let out a horrifying scream that was unlike anything I ever heard before. I was frozen in disbelief when he outstretched his arm 5 fucking feet and snatched the woman up, before jumping across the bathroom and into an air vent, and taking the screaming woman with him. The scream seemed to fade out quickly, and I ran out of the building and peeled out of the parking lot quickly, still in disbelief about what I had seen. I didn't sleep well that night, and when I woke up the next day, I had a voicemail on my phone. I played it, and my blood went cold. It was the clown breathing heavy into the phone and uttering just a short sentence. "You never finished your McDLT." I threw my phone across the room in horror. What the fuck was that? I've never seen anything like it, and I'm still unsure what I saw. It was the most horrifying experience in my life. Please be careful in McDonald's bathrooms. This story takes place at Burger King. It was around 5 o'clock, but it was already dark because of the stormy weather. I had just started working there earlier that week, and I was already loving it because I got to work with my 2 friends, Lynn and Abel, who I had previously worked with for 2 years at a different Burger King. The power had gone out, so we decided to just chill in the break room. Abel couldn't wait for the night crew to get there because he got off at 5:30 when they came in, and Lynn and I were the closing managers. Most of the night crew were 16-year-olds who were still in high school, so they didn't work a lot of hours. Therefore, I hadn't got the chance to meet all of them yet. After 15 minutes, the 3 people who worked up front sat in the front left corner of the table. Even though they were sitting furthest away from us, they were talking pretty loud. One of them said, "I wonder who else comes in today?" And another replied, "That weird kid from school. They call him Dax. He's one of the ones that usually hangs out with all the weird kids in the library during lunch, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic cards and stuff. And he's always walking around the hallways, listening to Edgar Allan Poe." I asked my friends about him, and they said he's pretty quiet. He just comes in and does his job. They have no problem with him. And occasionally, he likes to run around like Naruto when he's stocking up, just like I used to do. Wow, he's a man of culture, I thought. Then suddenly the break room door opened, and he walked in. Abel was happy to see him come in, so he could go already. Dax sat in the middle of the table, on the same side as the other kids. Since the power was out, and nobody could clock in, we just sat there bored until the GM texted us what to do. Lynn got up to go make sure the doors were locked, so nobody could try and come in. And everybody else was just bored on their phones. The 3 cashiers got bored and decided to start talking to Dax. I couldn't really make out what they were saying, but they progressively got louder and louder, and eventually it was made clear to me that they were messing with him. One of them proceeded to start roasting him.
Boy, you got so much acne. Pizza face looking ass. Your nose looks like a rhino. Rhino nose having boy. Boy, your lips like 2 fat bitches twerking. Waluigi looking ass. Dax then proceeded to fire shots back at one of them. You shouldn't be talking about me. When your edge looks like y equals mx plus b. Then he got up and moved to the other side of the table. Boy, you can't be talking about nobody here. That's why you always got that hat on. Looking like Sid off of Hey Arnold, said one of them. For real. Why are you even worried about his hair anyways? You gay for checking him out. Ooh, Dax gay. Ooh, you gay. Dax came out the closet, everyone, added another. You sure seem excited about that, he replied. If you ask me, I say you're the fucking homo. And ever since you got that box haircut, you look like Mojo Jojo.
They didn't seem to find that joke very funny. One of them decided to grab one of the plastic trays that we keep in the room for eating during our breaks and threw it at his head. Dax instantly shot up out of his seat, pulled the lunchbox out of the backpack he had with him, and slammed it on the table, all in one quick motion, right as he put his hand on the latches and was about to open it. The power came back on, and Lynn walked in and told everyone to clock in and get to work, so we did just that. Except for Abel. He was finally able to clock out and go home since his ride had arrived. The rest of the night was real slow, so we just did all our cleaning, and almost everyone got sent home early. Since Dax was the only cook, I let him stay and do all the cleaning and stocking, while I did the orders. He did everything I asked him, and seemed to be in a perfectly calm mood. But I still wondered, what was he about to pull out of the box? We ended up closing early since it was starting to rain pretty hard again, so it got pretty dead. As I was getting into my car to go home, I decided to go throw away some trash I had in the passenger seat. So I proceeded to walk to the dumpster, which was on the other side of the store. I was completely shocked by what I saw next. It was Dax sneaking up on one of the guys that was messing with him, and he had a pistol in his hand. Before I could even react, the guy heard Dax approaching him, and he turned around and started running towards the street. Dax started chasing after him, trying to get a good aim. Fortunately, a pickup truck just happened to be passing by, and the guy managed to jump in the bed of the truck and get away right as Dax took his shot. Then I got in my car, drove off, and called the police and told them what happened. Dax was arrested later that night, and the other guy never came back to work. I didn't stay working there much longer. It was one of the scariest moments in my life. Because if a truck didn't coincidentally pass by when it did, this story would have ended up differently. And if they wouldn't have messed with him, none of this would have happened.